Welcome to On the Water and in the Field, Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program's news magazine show. I'm your host, Kim Barber. We're bringing you today's show from our newest location, Tiana Bayside facility on Dune Road in Hampton Bays. We'll learn more about all the great programming and work happening out of this site later on in the show, but first we'll head out on the water with local baymen working the pound traps. Then we'll check in to see the final results of our Kelp aquaculture feasibility study. Along the way, we'll check in to see some of our art and science collaborators, and then see what it's like to be a commercial oyster farmer. So hang on, and here we go. Fresh, indigenous, sustainable, and healthy are the pillars of our fish seafood campaign. These principles are reflected by baymen who spend their days pound trap fishing in our waters to provide fresh, local fish to our seafood markets. Let's head out with some of our local baymen to learn more.
Local Long Island fish, fresh, indigenous, sustainable, and healthy. Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program started this project back in 2016 to promote locally caught seafood and to educate Suffolk County residents on the importance of purchasing locally caught seafood. CCE Marine Program staff works closely with fishermen to help them enhance their businesses. There are many methods of fishing on Long Island, and one such method that has been around since well before colonial times is pound trap fishing.
It's arguably the oldest fishery that we know in this country. Before the colonists got here, the Native Americans had crude traps out of branches and whatever wicker or whatever they could construct. So they were the first trap fishermen, probably the Shinnecock's or Montaukets, but definitely the Native Americans started it, and it's been something that has been fished in one capacity or another since the time of the settlers.
Pound trap fishing fits right in with CCE's philosophy of fish. Fresh, indigenous, sustainable, and healthy, from trap to table.
We want people to eat what we caught that day. Same thing with the organic farming. It's all organic. I mean, you can't get any better than the fish that come out of the pound trap. When we're cutting them, they're kicking. I've had people ask me when we're packing fish, well, geez, I think it's still alive and you're putting ice on it. Yeah, well, it was just caught. It's been 15 minutes out of the water and we're packing it up nice and fresh. That's what we want people to understand. That's what we want the public to want. Just like the corn. I mean, the farmer goes and picks the corn that morning and you're having it for dinner. Well, we want the people to eat the fish that we're catching that morning.
It's a hands-on fishery. I've never brought someone that's never been to a pound trap that didn't enjoy themselves and, see where their food is coming from and how you handled it. And, I think it's a great way to fish.
There's a long fence-like part of the trap that's called the leader, that's between 300 to 500 feet long, depending upon the site. And the fish, which move mostly at night because the bait is close to the beach at night, and then the bigger fish come in after the bait. They encounter this leader and they instinctively swim for offshore for deeper water. And that leader leads to an inner pond, which is sort of a maze-like structure that's like a secondary part of the trap. And then there's a funnel that leads into the box where we actually retrieve the fish.
So what kind of fish are you seeing out there? What's a normal day?
Well,
is there a normal day?
Every day's different. I mean, that's part of the intrigue of it. Every day's like the first day you ever went. That's, I love my job. It's interesting, and you never know what you're going to encounter. But normally I catch fluke, porgies, butterfish, bunkers, bluefish, weakfish, dogfish. That's like the standard fare. But I have caught, I think I'm up to 78 different species of fish in my traps over the years. So like the fish markets that I deal with are thrilled to get trap caught fish. They're always the best quality. Ice the fish right away after they're caught, and they're primo. They're the best. They're not marked up. I mean, they're live and put right into ice brine, and they're perfect fish. So particularly the fluke are highly sought after.
Does the average customer know that
No, I don't believe they do.
Okay.
I don't think they do. They just sort of generically think that the fish came from the ocean, or the sea. I don't think they know, the steps. I think if people knew the steps in the process, I think they'd be intrigued and really appreciative.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
This Mrs. Paul's fish sticks in King Cullen is not it's not us.
We're thankful to our local baymen and everything they do to bring us fresh fish to enjoy. Be sure to check out the official website of our fish campaign, localfish.org, to learn more about our efforts to increase interest, awareness, and demand for locally harvested, wild-caught, and grown seafood. We recently finished conducting a study aimed at determining the feasibility of establishing a kelp aquaculture industry in the Peconic Estuary. This study, funded by Suffolk County, looked at both the feasibility of growing kelp in our local waters and aimed to identify potential markets for kelp. In our last episode, we featured an overview of this project and highlighted the kelp tasting dinner hosted by Noah's in Greenport. Now we'll update you on some of the other ways we've been showcasing kelp and hone in on the environmental benefits this industry might bring to Long Island. Earlier this year, we partnered with Greenport Harbor Brewing Company to create a beer brewed with kelp that was released as part of a Kelp Art and Awareness celebration hosted at the brewery's Peconic location. Leading up to the event, the brewers worked to create Sea Farm Porter, brewed with, you guessed it, kelp we grew as part of our study. Sea Farm Porter was provided for everyone's enjoyment at the Kelp Art and Awareness event that featured participation by many local artists, including Scott Bluedorn and Randy Dodonna. These talented artists created work inspired by kelp that also incorporated spent grain sacks from the brewing operation. Ann Vandenberg curated all of these submissions into a truly unique exhibit. The event also featured a product showcase that included everything from kelp dog treats by Harbor Pet, kelp skin products by Naughty Gal, Southampton Soap Company, and Dirty Mermaid, and even kelp-inspired jewelry created by Manna Made. Celebrating the potential of the kelp industry at Greenport Harbor Brewing Company was certainly a fun way of helping the public understand the positive economic and environmental benefits this species could have. Our marine botanist Steve Schott helps explain just how kelp could play a key role in improving our local water quality.
Bioextraction basically means the removal of some component. In this case, we're concerned with nitrogen and carbon from the water column by a living organism, in this case kelp or other seaweeds. It's a way of using aquaculture, seaweed aquaculture, and growing these seaweed species that utilize these two chemicals that are problematic in our water, local waters. So kelp, like any plant, seaweeds are plants, they're primitive plants. They use nutrients, especially nitrogen, to grow. So as the plants grow, they absorb the nutrients, the nitrogen out of the water column, and incorporate that into their tissues. So kelp specifically is a very fast-growing seaweed, and it actually is able to pull out a lot of nitrogen in a short period of time. And being that it grows in the wintertime, it's actually doing this at a time when pretty much most other plants are dormant for the season. It's really pulling out a lot of nutrients that normally would just sit around until other plants became active, and incorporating them into the tissue. By the time they're done growing from, say, December through May, these plants could be over 6 feet in length. Some of them can be up to 15 if they're really happy. And that's a lot of nitrogen that gets absorbed out of the water column and form new tissue in the plants. So now that's not actually available in the environment. The potential for seaweed aquaculture is a win-win situation. There's no real downside. It's good for the environment, it's good for the economy, and it's healthy for people. And it's I guess good to see, having known the potential for the longest time, being that this is the background and the area of expertise that I chose to follow in life, and to see that the United States and the American people are starting to embrace what other people in the world have actually known for thousands of years and have taken advantage of. We have a real potential of making this a very viable and economically valuable resource that we can exploit, and it's fully renewable.
100% green. 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 100
Kelp holds a lot of promise when it comes to our environment and economy. We look forward to continuing our research and work on this species, and will keep you posted on our findings. Now to a more established form of aquaculture, oyster farming. We'll head out with some local growers to see what it's like to get started in this industry while learning about the Suffolk County Aquaculture Leasing Program.
I was a member of SPAT for several years and learned how to grow oysters through the Cornell Cooperative Extension for our own personal use and to share with family and friends. And I believe it was through a newspaper article we read about the Suffolk Aquaculture Lease Program and decided at that point we were ready to make a change in our careers and wanted to apply to become commercial oystermen and move permanently out to Southold and grow oysters as our full-time job. We applied for a lease site through the Suffolk County Aquaculture Lease Program several years ago. We went through the process, met with the county officials, selected our site. We were lucky enough that year to be selected through a lottery system to get our site. Once we did that, we went through a permitting process through the Army Corps of Engineers, the DEC, the town. Once we had all of our permits in place, we were able to start farming oysters on our 10-acre lease site. It's right in the middle of Southold Bay. That's where we put our off-bottom cages and grow the oysters. And it's ours for a 10-year lease. We renew it every year. And as long as we're using it to use it for aquaculture, it's ours indefinitely for farming.
We knew we wanted to be in Southold Bay. So we selected multiple sites as part of the process that were all in Southold Bay. And lucky enough, we got our first selection. That was the site we wanted to get.
The county is very supportive of aquaculture because oysters, when they're out in the water, are filtering the water. They're removing harmful algae, they're removing nitrogen, and the more oysters you have in the water, really the healthier the water is, the higher quality it is. So there's a big push for people to grow oysters, to work in aquaculture, because everyone benefits from their presence in the bay.
Yeah, the leasing program allows someone or an entity to lease up to 10 acres of underwater land in the Peconics, and it starts 1,000 feet offshore. So not up against the beach. It's 1,000 feet from the high water mark. And the person pays a fee. It's a very reasonable fee. It's renewed every year, and it's a 10-year lease that's renewable for another 10 years. So you've got about a 20-year lease, if not more.
There's not an oyster book. So as a new oyster farm, you cannot just go to the catalog and pick this equipment. It doesn't exist. So we did a lot of research. Once we got a lease, we realized that we were in 20 feet of water. So we started asking around other oyster farmers, what do you do in 20 feet of water? And everybody was like, their farm is 6 feet, 7 feet, So we are deep water growing. So we had to get the gear. Then we had to look for an oyster boat. We found a fantastic oyster boat. Her name is El Pulpo. She used to be a scalloping boat. So we retrofitted to be an oyster boat, which also we have to design ourselves. And then we start using the gear and testing with different gears. So it's a trial and error, but now we are actually pleased about it.
It's a much bigger process than what we do at SPAT, so we really had to rely on other oyster growers to figure out some best practices and advice on how to work the oysters, how to grow them as fast as possible and as nice as possible. And the weather also can always be a challenge. Cold winters can damage gear. The ice is not your friend, and in the summer there's some really hot days, some really windy days, rain. We see it all out there.
It seems like there's a lot of misconceptions with the Suffolk County Aquaculture Leasing Program. When you look at that map of the Peconic Estuary and you've got hundreds of 10-acre squares plus the buffer zones, it looks like the county wants to lease the whole bay out. And if you actually look at the math, it's about 20% that area represents of the total estuary. And it will never be that much. In fact, in the first 10 years, the county's only leasing 600 acres, which is about 0.4% of the estuary. So it's really a very small part of the estuary. And I know people are concerned about buoys. Generally, the buoys are clustered around the area. They're not just put out all across the bay. There are other fisheries, of course, that use buoys too. And if you're a boater, you have to be aware of buoys, obviously. But I think the return on the public's investment is local food production, jobs, and of course the ecological benefits that oyster farming entails. And that includes creating habitat for fish and other critters out there, and also filtering the water and removing nitrogen and perhaps clearing the water up from harmful algal blooms and make it better for things like eelgrass.
We have a very good algae and very good flow in the creek. From here, the oysters go out to the grow-out area where they actually finish up to be a market-sized product, and they get the flavor of the Southampton Bay. That's why we call them Southampton shindigs.
So where could people find your Southampton shindigs?
We are at Corey Creek Vineyard in Southold every Friday from 4 to 7 o'clock in the summers. We do a lot of private events, private parties, rehearsal dinners, birthday parties, things like that. We do a farm tour here at the co-op every month. Our next farm tour is coming up on June 30th, and that lets visitors really see the full process and finish with oyster tastings and champagne and wine pairings with the oysters right on the beach here in front of the co-op. It's a really fun day. And then we're also at other events around town, like at the brewery and street fairs. We're not quite big enough to do a wholesale operation yet, but we're getting there. I hope a lot of people just continue to eat oysters, love oysters, and every day when we're working at our raw bar, we see people eat their first oyster, and usually they love it, and we hope just more and more people enjoy oysters. They're sustainable, they're good for you, and they're delicious.
We get a lot of surprise faces from our customers. I didn't know Long Island had oysters. I didn't know New York had oysters. So our objective is for oysters growing in New York and Long Island to be as popular as famous as other oysters that grow in the Northeast. Beautiful oysters and very delicious.
And many people on Long Island don't realize that there's over 50 oyster farms operating just here on Long Island. So it's a good chance you live within 5 or 10 miles of your local oyster farm.
Thanks, Ben and Dave, for giving us a glimpse into what it's like to be an oyster farmer. It's great to see former members of our SPAT program go on to be commercial growers. We're headed out to Greenport now, where we sat down with Kara Hoblin, who's our featured artist this year. Let's learn more about this collaboration. Each year, we feature a local artist who collaborates with us to produce artwork that is featured in our print and marketing materials, including our official Back to the Bays membership packages. For 2018, we're so happy to be working with Kara Hoblin, a local North Fork artist. Kara is the founder of the North Fork Art Collective, curates local art shows, and is well known for her amazing chalk art that graces many East End establishments, including First and South, Love Lane Kitchen, Noah's, and Little Creek.
We are in the North Fork Art Collective. This was kind of a dream project of mine to get a bunch of artists to come together, support each other, and like grow in collaboration and you know, like-minded issues. And this is our permanent space. There's 9 artists from the North and the South Fork. So it really is still about like bridging, you know, keeping the community together, like bridging both forks and kind of, you know, working in collaboration with other artists. So I, you know, came up with this idea for the See Something, Save Something show, and I thought it would be like really like amazing and like bringing everyone together, and I really wanted to benefit like our local waterways, and I made a list of a bunch of organizations out here that are doing work, and Cornell was at the top of it, and I said, you know what, I'm just gonna call them and see if they want to work with me. We started with the See Something, Save Something show. So it was at Borghese Vineyard, which is like an amazing event space, like amazing gallery room, like awesome wines. Through that show, we kind of all came together to create Rosé for the Bays. That I designed the label, and it benefits Cornell's marine programs. So it's kind of like the best of all the worlds. Like you're drinking rosé, it's benefiting the water you're swimming in, and they still have, you know, like they're still, like they're gonna do a whole nother 2018 Rosé for the Bays. So go get some. This past winter, Kim reached out to me and asked me to be their artist, to work on all the Back to the Bays drawings and stickers and everything that goes like into the packets. And I was like, of course, yes, please. So with this project, I was able to really like hone in with just like black and white, like look at the oyster, like look at the drawing, look at a scallop, look at my drawing. So it was really nice to kind of like go back and just like see the species, see what it was, and then like through there I made these black and white drawings for all of their Back to the Bays stuff. You know, looking forward to the next collaborative project with Cornell. I'd really like to focus and just, you know, like benefit, work on our local community and other areas also on Long Island.
Thanks, Kara. We're so grateful for the support you've shown us. If you want to support the work of Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program and receive the decals designed by Kara, all you need to do is register as a Back to the Bays member at backtothebays.org or at any of our facilities or events. Speaking of our facilities, we're now going to get more in depth about Tiana Bayside and check out what's going on here this summer. Working with the town of Southampton in close partnership with the Parks and Recreation Department, we have created a place for learning and stewardship at Tiana Bayside facility on Dune Road in Hampton Bays. This waterfront location is an ideal place for us to deliver hands-on, science-based programming to the community. On site, we have a coastal plant nursery where we are growing native species that will be utilized in our many habitat restoration projects. This site also serves as a satellite location for our SPAT program, offering participants an opportunity to grow their own shellfish for their enjoyment and in support of the health of our local waters. We caught up with SPAT Director Kim Tetro and some of his SPAT members.
Yeah, so we're at the Tiana, what I call the Tiana Oyster Garden Annex of Cornell Marine Program, the SPAT program, Suffolk Project and Aquaculture Training. And what happens is that a lot of people that want to grow oysters don't have waterfront property, so where do they get to grow? We started the SPAT program 20-odd years ago at the Southold place because that was the first community garden on Long Island where people without waterfront could actually grow oysters without waterfront property. The town of Southampton trustees and the town board gave us this awesome place to set up yet another community garden annex. We have a lot of growers. We have 80 lines out here. We started about 8 years ago, I'm told. It seems like a lot shorter to me, and it's just been fabulous. The people come out, everyone gets 1,000 oysters to grow. It's very neat and orderly. It's very festive looking. We get bi-weekly meetings during the summer where people tend their oysters. They get to keep their 1,000 oysters. They can't sell them, but they can play with them and eat them and things like that. They learn a lot about what it takes to grow oysters. We now have the education facility where we're running lectures and teaching them more in a classroom setting at night. Here we just come out, we have fun, we show people how to be oyster gardeners.
How long have you been a SPAT member for?
Today.
Today, awesome.
My parents started coming, my mom came out here in January and started coming to some of the lectures, but today's my first day.
Awesome. So what made you come and do SPAT?
I did this program called Maine Coast Semester at Chewonki, and while you're there you have to do a final project your last week, and so for mine I developed an aquaculture project where students could grow hardshell clams in the salt marshes there. And so that kind of just opened me up to the world of aquaculture, and right when I got back my mom found out about SPAT, and so then she started coming here, and that kind of drew me in because I really wanted to take what I'd learned and kind of do it at home.
Well, I've heard of other people, starting oyster farming, and I've been a contractor for the past almost 20 years here on the island, and I've really been involved in anything on the water. So through the recreation program, I saw the oyster farming program, and I decided, maybe this is something that I really want to pursue and look into further. So I signed up, and here I am starting to grow my own oysters.
In the classroom space inside the facility, we are able to conduct a variety of programming tailored to those aged 15 months through adult.
Okay, So an oyster is the same as these animals. They're all like cousins. All right, so they have two.
Our Bay Buddies early education programs are designed for children aged 3 to 5 years and help foster environmental stewardship and an appreciation for our marine environment at an early age. Rachel Neville is the lead educator at this facility who conducts these and many other programs on site.
So this is our second season operating out of our Tiana Bayside facility. We've been doing a lot of different youth education programs ranging from free marine exploration programs, free kayaking, eco tours. We also have done some Bay Babies and Bay Buddies programs aimed at young future marine stewards. It's been a great opportunity for us to reach some new people, kind of expand our range here on the South Fork, get a lot of new kids to experience marine science firsthand. Been a pretty neat opportunity.
Integrative art and science curriculum offers another way for the public to learn about our marine environment. Another way we are integrating art and science is through our collaboration with artist Cindy Pizarro. She created a sculpture, the Wishing Whale, utilizing reclaimed gear recovered from our derelict lobster trap removal project. The sculpture has found a permanent home at our facility.
The Wishing Whale was such a fun piece to make because a long time ago, Chris Pickrell of Cornell showed me one of these lobster traps. He explained to me about the derelict lobster traps in Long Island Sound, and he said, hey, is there something you think, just take a look at it and see if there's something that, it might inspire you. So I took one back to my studio. It sat here for 6 months. I would walk in and out of the studio and look at it every day. And then Southampton Art Center reached out to me and was interested in doing a community-based large sculpture. And we started having this discussion, and it dawned on me that the lobster traps could possibly be used as the armature for the framework. And that's how it all kind of came together as a massive derelict fishing gear piece of artwork, with the major focus being the lobster traps. They worked out amazingly well. So that's really how it all came off. Being able to put wishes in little miniature liquor bottles is like such a fun thing that community members can do. So you can go and find a little miniature liquor bottle. They're all over the beach, sorry to say. Put your wish in it. Any wish is fine. It's okay. You don't have to, we don't monitor the wishes. And if you go underneath the tail, there's a little hole. You actually can pop it up and it'll go and it'll slide down into the tail. As you go underneath the tail, you can actually see lots of wishes and lots of bottles in there. And that's why it's called the Wishing Whale. Of course, you can guess what my wish is. It's for a cleaner ocean.
So all the programs that we have coming up are featured on our website, ccesuffolk.org. They're also on the kiosk behind me. Get some up-to-date information on there. And in addition, our programs are listed with the Southampton Town Parks and Rec website, so you can find all that information on there as well.
What a great little spot we have down here at Tiana Bayside. I hope you're able to check out some of our programming this year. While we certainly enjoy operating programs out of our own facilities, we also frequently work with other entities and organizations to offer collaborative programs off-site. One such entity is the Southampton Art Center. We headed over to that location to speak with their Director of Programs, Amy Kerwin.
When the Parish Art Museum decided that they would be moving to Watermill, both the village and the community were concerned about this iconic building just sitting here empty, and so that's really how Southampton Art Center was born. Southampton Art Center opened in summer of 2013, and we are a multi-arts institution with our galleries, which are beautiful, and we have 5 to 6 exhibitions a year and many programs of varying types. But the idea of Southampton Art Center was when the Parish Art Museum left, Southampton Village and people who live here didn't want this building to just sit here unoccupied when it's really a cornerstone, and it's such an important place for the village to have and to breathe life into. So now we have upwards of 120 programs in the summer alone and over 200 year-round and 5 to 6 exhibitions a year. And I think people are really enjoying all that we do, and it really is part of what the village is now, and it is, I think, very beloved. So Southampton Art Center, as an art center, is not confined to just the visual arts like a museum would be. So although we do have our gallery space and we always have exhibitions going on like the one we currently have, we can really do anything we want. The sky is the limit. So We have our exhibitions, but we also do kids programming and films, live programming, talks, workshops, so really anything. And it was actually an art project that we did with our artist in residence last year, Cindy Peace Rowe, who created her wishing whale, which was a tail that was made with lobster pots that Cornell Cooperative Extension provided. This tail was then covered with marine plastics and filled with marine plastics that she had collected. That was really the beginning of our foray into sustainable programming, and we felt that it was something important to do. And previously, we'd already been working with you on some of the programs, Brushstrokes for the Bays, the painting parties, and we had you come with our kids programs to do the touch tank. But with Cindy's project, that we sort of went to high gear after that, and we unveiled it on Earth Day, and we had an Earth Day celebration, which you were also a part of. We want to live the message as best we can as well, and minimize our use of single-use plastics. We don't use them anymore. We don't use straws, and so it's important for us to not just present it, but also be part of that change.
It's always a good thing when the art and science communities come together. Thanks to Southampton Art Center for your continued support of Cornell Cooperative Extension Marine Program. Well, that's our show. I hope you enjoyed learning about some of our recent projects and happenings. Check us out on our website, find us on YouTube, and follow us on social media for all the latest news and information. See you next time, on the water and in the field.